Close to Sarajevo's wartime Sniper Alley is a small park containing military museum pieces from former Yugoslavia. It's here we meet Ajna Jusic, a 25-year-old psychology student, speaking on camera for the first time about being a living legacy of war.
For a long time, other children were laughing at me because I never knew my father's name when they asked me in high school or in primary school.
Ajna is the product of rape. Her mother was raped by a Serb soldier who was a family acquaintance. Afterwards, her mother made a decision that many other pregnant rape victims found impossible. She chose to keep her child.
I am now living life to the full. But just 2 years ago, I was literally struggling to survive, processing everything after I discovered who am I and what am I, and how I came to this world. I was seeing a psychologist for a long time. I went to various experts who worked with me on empowerment. But as I got older, I began to empower myself and accept the facts.
It takes courage to break cover and reveal yourself as a product of wartime rape. A Bosnian rape survivors non-profit organisation estimates there are about 60 such young people. This male nurse makes no attempt to hide. His name is Wartime Muhic, and he was born in Gorazde, a town 60 miles from Sarajevo that was besieged for much of the war.
I knew that I was a war baby, but I didn't imagine my life and my past to be what they are. That I was adopted and that my parents are not my biological parents.
Alan's Muslim mother became pregnant after being raped several times by a Serb man she knew before the war. Traumatized, she abandoned baby Alan in the hospital where she gave birth. And that's where he was spotted by Muharem Muhic, who was working at the hospital during the siege.
We brought him home for 2 or 3 months while he was at the hospital. We played with him. We simply loved him and couldn't be separated from him.
Muharem and his wife decided to adopt Alan.
I just wanted to get Alan out of the hospital so he could be with us and to educate him properly. We were afraid what would happen to him if the Red Cross put him up for adoption. Who would take him? What would happen to him?
Gorazde is not a big place and gossip gets around. After some playground cruelty, Alan's adoptive parents were forced to tell him about his background earlier than they had wanted. In 2007, this Serb man, Radmilo Vukovic, was tried for the rape of Alan's mother. Samples of Alan's DNA were used as evidence. Vukovic admitted committing the rape and was convicted by Bosnia's National War Crimes Tribunal. Initially, he was jailed, but was freed after the Bosnian Appeals Chamber overturned the conviction, citing Vukovic's pre-war relationship with Alan's mother as a mitigating circumstance.
When he opened the door, I saw myself 20 to 30 years in the future. Same physical appearance, same shape of the head, identical. It was like copy-paste. We introduced ourselves, sat down in the garden, and started talking. I was so furious with his answers to my questions. I wanted to know why he admitted everything at the trial, but never got in touch with me after his release. He said he had never known my mother. He didn't commit any crime. I became so angry when he said the DNA analysis was fake and was planted on him. I realized then that there was nothing human in him, and I just turned around and left without saying goodbye, without anything.
As for Ajna Jusic, years of therapy have allowed her to come to terms with her roots.
When somebody asks me what my most important identity is, I say that I am a daughter of a lioness mother, a mother who is a fighter.
Bakira Hasecic is another survivor of wartime rape.
That image, even when I'm talking, I see it. It's always there, in the shadows. It never goes away. Medicine hasn't yet come up with an eraser to get rid of these memories. I will live with them until the day I die.
Hasecic campaigns on behalf of fellow victims. She runs a non-profit that gathers evidence and tries to bring wartime rapists to justice. In her office, this picture depicts a woman enduring rape, but ultimately regaining happiness. The reality is not so simple.
It's very hard to talk about it, even after 26 years. 3 times I was taken to 3 different locations and raped. Sometimes I ignore what happened to me, especially when I think of my child being tortured and not being able to help her.
This is her daughter Amela. She was a schoolgirl when she too was raped by Serb soldiers in front of her parents. Visegrad is where the lives of Hasecic and her daughter were torn apart. Today, this predominantly Serb town in eastern Bosnia markets itself as a tourist destination. But in 1992, 3,000 Muslims were murdered and their bodies hurled from the bridge into the river Drina. 70 people were burned alive in this cellar, and Hasecic is fighting to preserve this house as a museum and memorial to savagery. Her work is not limited to helping rape survivors. She has an even broader goal.
People are still looking for the bones of their loved ones so they can bury them with dignity. I've been thinking about these people, dreaming about them for years. They were my neighbors, living 2 to 3 kilometers from me. One whole village, Koritnik, was burned alive in this house. The youngest victim was a 2-day-old baby who didn't even have a name.
Besima Čačić-Suljević is a psychotherapist working with Hasecic's non-profit. She says people in conflict zones like Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan must learn from Bosnia and avoid stigmatizing rape victims.
The majority of us realize that the woman was the victim and she did not have the possibility to defend herself. But there are countries where it is important to work with the community and send a clear message. It is not your fault. You are the victims and you could not defend yourself, because in this kind of situation, it is impossible for a woman to defend herself.
Some politicians wanted to set up a fund so that rape victims and the children who were born as a result could receive monthly compensation of about $280, as well as additional benefits. And this package would include men as well, because male rape was used as a weapon of war. But the legislation was thwarted. It was blocked by Serb lawmakers. And critics see this as one of the failings of the Bosnia peace agreement, because as the country is currently constituted, any ethnic group can block any law that it doesn't like. Peter van der Alveraert works for the United Nations and has studied the impact of rape in Bosnia's former battlegrounds. He believes in prosecuting perpetrators, but says there are key lessons to learn from Bosnia's post-war experience.
There was a total imbalance in the investment of resources and energy in focusing everything on criminal justice and not putting enough resources into softer measures, if I can put it in that way, to provide victims with reparations, to provide victims with access to mental health care, to give those people the tools and give them the support they need to rebuild their lives.
If she wanted to, Ajna Jusic could provide a sample of DNA and allow Bosnian prosecutors to open a case against her biological father. But she's unwilling to do so.
When I turned 18, I had the right to initiate a complaint against him. Then I was in a difficult process of trying to grasp and accept what happened, not to mention trying to survive. But now, at this stage of my life, after so many years of effort and us working together to overcome all of this, I really don't want to meet him.
In Gorizda, the circle of life has rotated. Wartime Muhic is now a father, and he promises to emulate his adoptive father, the man he calls Dad.
I want my son to learn all the things my father taught me, to be righteous, realistic, not to judge people no matter how they appear or what religion they follow, because I also don't judge people. This injustice is the only thing that hurts me.
Without it.